Welcome to this edition of a Workflow Wednesday.
This is Workflow Edition 002, episode number 002. My name is Matthew Hahn. Anyways, if you missed it because I didn't record it, every week we are going to be starting from scratch on our workflows, building out different buckets. And as we progress at the end of the calls, we'll start adding in automations as we're progressing through this, but we will always start from the beginning. Adam, you did just save me because we would have had a missing episode, so I appreciate it. When you log into your Agency Elephant account, if you don't use the Lead Manager pipeline section frequently, you will notice that this recent activity pops up, and you'll see your statuses up here if you have some that show like, hey, you know, this is my workflow up the top, right? Well, if you don't use this a ton, you will have to click View Leads. Toggle from View Leads to View Activity. This will toggle to view your pipeline or view your activity coming in. Okay, so again, if you don't use your pipeline a ton, it usually will automatically come to this activity section. Just click View Leads, and this will show your pipeline, okay, and all the leads within your pipeline. So let's start there. That is how you view your pipeline. We don't have one showing because we're going to build one today, okay? So I noticed a few people in the comments did mention they want to see claims, notice of cancellation, and I think NSF is non-sufficient funds. Stephen, if you want to clarify that for me, we can definitely use those. If we've got any other buckets, let me know, because I am going to be showing you how to build that now, okay? So your pipeline or workflow in your system is going to be referred to as your deal status, okay? In your settings, this right button up at the top, there is a little icon. You're going to click on it, go into settings. This is where you are going to find your deal status, okay? Click into your deal status that takes you to your pipeline workflow deal status area, okay? Your account will always come, if you're built for you, with the built for you sales pipeline, okay? This is the pipeline that was in our account that we're going to use as a representation on how to start this, okay? The first thing we want to do is, I'm going to show you something here really quick, is when you delete out these statuses and the action button, this is going to be one of the first things I do just to show you, because some users will get hung up on this. If you delete out every single one of these statuses, the system will automatically populate all of these statuses again, because there has to be something here, okay? You can't delete out every single status and have a blank screen, because they want to give you something that's easier to work on. So when I hit this last one, it's going to populate all those ones again for me, okay? So just as an FYI, there has to be statuses and pipelines in here. We can simply change these, okay? Now, first thing we want to do is establish a pipeline name for this. Now, from what Stephen is mentioning and other people, these are all service workflows. I like to segment out my pipeline or workflow based upon the things I'm working on, because I don't want to have 16 statuses across the top that make it hard for me to see the people inside of it. I want to segment it so I can view all of it if I want to, but I can have smaller sections by toggling through the pipeline, which I will show you how to do on your workflow pipeline area in just a minute. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to add pipelines, okay? You are going to call this one, for example, service pipeline, okay? Because we are working on service pipeline, okay? Let's call it workflow, actually, because that's what we're referring to this as. Service workflow. You could refer to this as just service or just as sales, but let's just call it service workflow for the time being. When you hit submit, you are going to create a new pipeline with new statuses, okay? I love to delete stuff out just to make it clean while I'm working on it, because our system is really fast now. I love to just delete these out really easily to get them out of here so I don't have too much going on, okay? You can always add new statuses, but when you create a new pipeline name, it is going to give you some generic statuses, okay? So, and I'll show you how to edit those and how to change them, because this is just part of the process when you're adding new status titles, okay? So I'm just going to delete some of these out, and this is going to be start from finish, how to do your workflow, okay? So I'm going to come through and delete some of these here. And I wanted to show you guys what happens when you delete all statuses so you don't think you did something wrong. There has to be something there. So typically I'll delete all but one and then create a pipeline so I don't have to scroll through and pick a ton of these, okay? That's just what I personally do. Now, you'll notice as I'm deleting these through this type section, qualified, unqualified, win, abandoned, loss, these are the things that are at the bottom of your pipeline that we don't necessarily teach on a ton, but you can assign certain of your workflows to track down at the bottom, okay? So let's delete this last one here. One more, the proposal, and we'll start here, okay? So here's our service workflow, a little bit cleaned up. All we have—
four buckets.
Four buckets that you can pick. One thing I also like to do is make sure that I delete out other pipelines in here I don't need. So I'm going to come into this pipeline drop down over here, and I'm just going to delete out a few to make sure that it's clean. If you accidentally delete one, but there was a status here, you accidentally deleted the pipeline you were working on, you can simply search and add the status here, okay? So you add pipelines. You could even have multiple pipelines attached to one status if you want it, but we'll leave that for another episode, okay? So we have three buckets here. All of them are assigned to the service workflow, as you can see, to that pipeline. You need to make sure your statuses are assigned to pipeline. Otherwise, they won't show up on your dashboard, okay? So we've got three buckets. They're all tied to the service pipeline. The next thing we want to do is make sure these are cleared, okay? I do not want to track our win-one losses on that dashboard. Pipeline. I'm just going to change the settings here. And you got to make sure you click yes, change it. Otherwise, it won't unassign that status or bucket. Okay. So here's our three buckets. Now, all we're going to do is change the name on these. So for example, Stephen wanted to see one that was claims follow-up. You know, we could call this new claim. And we can leave it generic. This doesn't have to be towing. This doesn't have to be car accident, home. You can always separate your buckets later if you want to, but let's start with something simple.
I like it all generic for the simple fact that everything's in one spot, and then you can click on the lead inside of the pipeline and see the comments as to what kind of claim it is.
Correct, correct. And we are not going to go over what all this hidden, inactive is. We're just going to leave it basic and simple from the start. Okay, notice of cancellation, and then notice, let's just do non-sufficient funds. This was his acronym for it. Okay, Stevens. Anybody else want to add another bucket while we're here? Because I do want to show you how easy it is to add buckets. Once you create the pipeline with the name, okay, we can add a new status. This is simply—
let's do a missing docs.
Missing documents, okay? Make sure you assign that to the service workflow pipeline, okay? Hit submit, and here we are, missing docs.
But Matt, I don't like the NSF at the very end. I want it higher up. I want to see, whoa.
You can drag and drop these wherever you want, okay?
And this is going to be in order from left to right. So at this point, missing docs is going to be your far left bucket. Then you're going to have NSF.
Correct. Correct. So I would probably want to see, you know, notice of cancellation and non-sufficient funds, et cetera, next to each other. But this is completely up to you. Okay. These are your buckets. We are giving you a walkthrough on how to build it. Okay. This is your—
Adam Ryder says this is fancy like Applebee's on date night.
Okay. Okay. Too far, Adam. Now, these are our buckets. Okay. We've got new claims, non-sufficient funds, notice of cancellation, missing docs. One thing I would want to add to this is, let's say we have an inbound service. Okay. Inbound service, just generic. Okay. This is because I want to have a very generic— and if you see, I didn't click the pipeline on that, so it says no pipeline. All I have to do is search for service and attach it to that status, okay? I want to have an inbound service generic button because if somebody doesn't fit in one of these sections, I want to be able to add them to the pipeline so that I know, hey, these people were this was a bucket they should have fallen in. This was a bucket they should have fallen in. I can add more buckets later, but at least they'll be on my workflow front and center. Okay.
The inbound service one's something that Ariel is really liking. And it's all the people that's like, hey, I'm thinking about getting a new car, or hey, I might be doing this, I might be doing that. And so it's a nice spot to just have those people front and center, so that it doesn't go forgotten.
Oh my gosh, client, you forgot my paperwork. Wow, Charles. Wow, Charles, that one was a little too personal. But I loved it. So these are our generic buckets for workflows, okay, for service stuff. Now, to view this, I usually like to have two tabs open, okay? I want to have my settings of my workflow here, and then I also want to have on another tab my actual pipeline pulled up. And if you notice, when I refreshed it, it took me straight to the pipeline. It didn't take me to activity. So the more you use this and the more you stick on the page, it should stick as to what you want most of the time, okay? Your cookies and cache will clear every now and again, but it should stick for the most part, okay? If it doesn't, just click the button, okay? It's not rocket science. Now, let's say I have a customer call in and I want to add them to a status. They're not in my system. They're not in my pipeline to drag and drop. What do I do? Okay.
But they're in Agency Elephant. Is that what
Correct.
you're saying?
They might be, maybe they're not.
Well, that's two different things.
Let's do two scenarios.
Okay.
Okay. Let's do two scenarios. Maybe you're on the phone with, let's say it's Brian. You're on the phone, you search Brian, you're like, oh, Brian's in my system. I'm going to click into his account. He needs some type of inbound service work. All you have to do is make sure you're looking at the right pipeline, because you can sort, if you have multiples, you can sort which one you want to view. In this case, service. He had an inbound service issue. Well, what was his inbound service issue? He wanted to add a new car later this week, right? He's picking up a new car later this week. I'm going to hit update and move. It says it was done successfully. I'll exit out. Page will refresh and you'll see now Brian is in this inbound service bucket. Okay. Come over to that pipeline and I'm going to hit refresh. And now Brian will appear here. Okay. Easy way to see that notes and for your staff to take notes on this so that everybody's communicating effectively and efficiently. This little 0 button, or the confidence level, if you have a confidence on here, if it's 21, you click the 21, you click this circle, it will take you to your notes. Okay, so the client wanted to add a car later this week. Train your staff to put on here what date it was and who handled it, and hit save, because as this is sitting here, you can always follow up, and you should be, because there's no automation set up. So your staff reaches out and hasn't gotten car yet. This was done by Julie on 11/1. And as you're saving these notes, your staff will very easily be able to pop in and say, well, what's going on with Brian? Oh, looks like Julie reached out on the 1st of November. Perfect. Don't need to touch that. And as you're having more of these inbound service people stack in your bucket, you'll be able to easily see what's going on in that account. Does that make sense for everybody on the call? Should be fairly straightforward, but I did want to showcase that section because it is easy comments, easy tracking for your office if you have multiple people handling your workflow status, which you should. You should have multiple people working this if you've got multiple people in the office, right? So this is how you handle that. Now, let's say you search up in the top and you're searching for a customer. Let's call him Adam Ryder. He's not in my system. What do I do? There's a few different ways to do this. Brian is under the opinion that he just wants to add Adam straight into here, and then he wants to go into Adam's account and move him into the pipeline, just like we did with Brian, clicking the button, putting him in the pipeline there. You can do that. You can also hit this green button and add him straight to the pipeline. So I could just come in here and say, Adam Ryder, I don't have an email. Make sure you always add people to a group, and this person would be a customer if they have an inbound service request. Over here, you'll see, well, what status do I want to add them to? Inbound. Hit save, lead added successfully. Now Adam is in inbound service pipeline. Okay. That is an easy way to add people straight to the pipeline if they're not in your system. If you want to do it this way, you can, but just remember you will have to go into that lead once you add them, go into it, do the same thing we did with Brian and put them into the inbound status. Two different ways.
Joey wants to know if the notes in the comments from the pipeline save anywhere.
They save here, but they do not save in, if you know in your pipeline, you have a note section, or in your lead contact section, you have a notes, it won't save here. It saves into the comments of the pipeline.
It's
Okay,
just comments that will go away once they are removed from the pipeline about notes during the either sales or service process.
Should remove as you're dragging them across. They may stick as well. So for example, if Adam calls in later and he has a new claim and I'm updating and moving it because now he's had a claim and maybe it's 4 months after he had an inbound service request, those notes should be gone. If they're not, just delete them out, right?
Yep.
Just delete them out and create.
Kevin asked if adding them that way through the lead deal status adds them into the system. And the answer is yes. Just like how Matt clicked on Adam Ryder's profile, it went straight to Adam Ryder's contact profile, whether clicking on the blue square or clicking on the box inside of the pipeline, it'll open his contact profile.
Now, let's say, for example, you log into Agency Elephant and you know you have a pipeline, but you're not seeing it. We rarely run into this with other users having this problem. I know me and Brian see it frequently because we're in so many different accounts that we need to make sure we're clicking all members and either all pipelines or the specific pipeline we want to see. So if you don't see your pipeline, just click the pipeline, make sure you're viewing it as all members, because sometimes you might be viewing it as a staff person or somebody else and it might not pop up if it's not assigned correctly. So I always just do all members and I pick my pipeline, let it refresh, and it always pulls it up. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
this is like the service pipeline to us so far is nice just because it lets us like over deliver on the customer service. You know, like if we get a inbound call for some billing issue or something off the wall, we'll do our best to fix it on the spot. But if we can't, in our heads, we know there's still an issue, but maybe we're not communicating that very well to our client. And so when it's front and center, just in the last week, I've noticed the communication from Ariel to these customers has gotten a lot better. It seems like we're getting things fixed faster because when she logs in, those things bug her. They're front and center and she wants to fix them. She wants them out of here. She wants to take Brian Blair on the service thing, get it out of there and drag and drop it.
One thing new to the pipeline, if you didn't see our video we posted on Friday, if you complete a task and you want them out, you see this new unassigned button down at the bottom. If you want to get Brian out of there because you completed the task, you can drag him to the unassigned, hit OK, and it will remove him from that status.
I'm still in Agency Elephant. He can still go up there and search me. I'm just not in a status where I either need something or anything like that. So I'm still in here and I can still get re-added into the pipeline in 6 months when I have a new claim, but that takes it off the radar. That person is fixed. We communicate whatever that verbiage is to the customer, on to the next.
And here he is over here. So he was unassigned. I just put him into missing documents now. And just to showcase that again, documents got fixed. I want to unassign him. Yes, I want to remove it. You need to make sure you hit yes and hit the OK button, because if you accidentally were dragging people across and hit it, you don't want to be like, oh, son of a freaking gun. Who was I working on? Who was it? Who was it?
Because that's going to be more important too. Like Michelle's question, can we set it up where completed service sends a text email saying their request is completed? That's the goal of all of this. But this, for the most part right now, is just a visual to get you used to using this. And you'll know what you're going to want to send when you drag and drop. But let's say as soon as someone got dropped into missing documents, it automatically fired off a text without that pre-screened pop-up where you have to actually hit update and move. That's that safeguard there.
Because if I hit the X button, system says, oops, that was a mistake, and it will not allow that person to be moved to missing documents. Okay. You hit that X
Michelle, to
button.
answer your question, that's going to be on some of the coming calls,
Yes.
is when we drag and drop from one to the other, especially on the sales side. Um, in my head, I'm thinking when we send a quote or when we sell a policy, right? When we move to a sold and bound status, I would love a text to go out letting them know that the next steps are in their email automatically from my company. But I'd also like another email to go out maybe the next day with just kind of a blueprint of what we expect from them. Hey, here's an introduction to our agency. This is my staff. This is how we do business. This is what we need from you in writing down, like just the basic blueprint of how we operate, just to start training these clients. Don't pick up the phone and call and leave me a vague voicemail. Hey, Matt, I got a question. No, on that introduction email, we gave you what to do in these processes. We need it in writing. So it's one giant roadmap, start to finish.
Yep. And it isn't as intimidating to change processes or expectations with customers. It's not that intimidating when they call in and be like, awesome, Brian, we'll definitely take care of it. We're short staffed. We can't do this over the phone anymore. If you could please send us an email, we'll put you into our service, in our service,
queue,
if you will, and we'll get to it as soon as possible. We'll send you an update when it's completed. You can absolutely change your processes and your agency's flow, especially in today's market where every other business has changed how they do business. You are more than able to do the same. Now, if you notice how easy it was for me to add that completed section for Michelle, you can add that completed bucket very simply by just adding a new status, putting it in the service pipeline. I put it all the way to the right side because that's where I'd like to see completed. And initially, this would not send out automation, but at least your staff would know it's completed and then they can reach out on their own. But on our next call, at the end of it, we will go over how to add an automation, and is simply just going to be creating a new drip with a correct group and having the group assigned to this status. Okay, it is going to be specific on how we do it because there's going to be a few things we want to make sure that we aren't forgetting. We need to be surgical with our data. Okay, so this pipeline is a move feature. It is not a copy. Okay, move and copies are very different. Copy and agency elephant means I'm going to add Brian to a bunch of different groups and he's going to stay on all the groups that he was previously on. A move means erase everything, only the groups that we're moving to. So we need to make sure on service pipelines, if we're using automations, to always be moving it to the customer BFY group and the group that's going to trigger the automation. Okay, we will go over in depth on episode 3 of Workflow Wednesdays. Any specific questions about adding different workflow buckets or statuses, anything you want to go over? We want to keep these calls on 30 minutes so that they're watchable for the other users that are going to watch on the quick replay, but I can field some quick questions if you'd like. Adam, is there a way to track ROI back to a giveaway if we continue to move individuals through the pipeline? Man, that is a really good question.
Yeah.
Really good question. If you are using giveaways and tracking those, I would probably have a secondary system that you took at the end of your giveaway, that you took all your results, put them at the end of the giveaway, what your results were.
Why couldn't you just track it through a giveaway pipeline?
You could, but Adam's saying, for example, if somebody comes in, like let's say Adam was in my giveaway, I sold him, he's in the giveaway, sold column, I can track it, but now he calls in and he wants to add a vehicle. Well, once I move him to say inbound service, there's going to be a value on what his account was, but it's not going to be tied to the giveaway sold column anymore, which is what his tracking was. So I would recommend at the end of every giveaway to not screenshot with like a true screenshot on your screen, but you need to take those results, save them somewhere so you can track them specifically. Because as you're using workflows, you can only have one person attached to one workflow at a time.
Maureen and Andrea both are saying that this is going to be great for their service work side. Well, Maureen just said thanks, but Andrea said it'll be amazing for her service work. So here's what I would do. Go through your service work for the last week or two, the stuff that's still out there, the stuff that you're still working on, and go in and find that person and add them to this pipeline. And the way we're attacking it now is we're staring at a pipeline for service that's not going to trigger anything. But maybe this one at the top is the third attempt with service operations to get something fixed, but maybe the one below it's the first one. What we're doing is just going right into, for example, Adam Ryder right there and completed. We're clicking on his name and we're doing the communication manually. Hey, Bob, just want to let you know I talked to so-and-so. Everything should be good by tomorrow. I'll follow back up with you tomorrow. Done. Still stays in the pipeline. So we're doing that communication manually. And we've even, Matt and I have discussed doing some things that don't necessarily need to be personalized. Missing documents. Hey, Matt, this is an automated message from the Blair agency that you are missing your documents. Please go to your email and complete the steps requested. We don't want them to reply back to that. This isn't a debate. This is just black and white information from us to them. So starting to start thinking big picture, get your buckets built. We should almost not let people on the call next week if they don't have their buckets built.
I mean, it's a Facebook Live. What are we going to do? Shut their Facebook down?
I'll shut down the group. No, that's a bad idea.
God.
Let's not do that. But build your buckets.
You are feisty today.
Go in today, go in tomorrow, rewatch Matt's process on how he built this simple workflow and build it. Build something, knowing that it's not going to be perfect on the first try because we can add, remove, and change things as we go.
Yeah.
But build something.
I'm going to create a new YouTube playlist on our YouTube channel for our Workflow Wednesday calls. I'm going to upload last week's and this week's today. There will be episode 001 and episode 002. Those will be our workflow videos. I'll upload those today for you to rewatch. It'll be a playlist on our YouTube channel. Okay.
This live will also be in the Agency Elephant group. We're not deleting it. It'll be in there and you can go back and watch it from there.
Correct. And that is Workflow Wednesday, episode 002. Guys, have a great day.
Thanks, Matt.